Hello, hello! We're finally back after a couple-week hiatus. This is SEO Unmasked, episode number 38, on June 28th, 2018. As always, glad to have you with us. I'm Garrett Groff.
I'm Steve Brownlee, and Vince Stiletto is stranded on a train toilet.
Who knows what he's doing? He said he was riding a train. I would think Amtrak has Wi-Fi. Yeah.
You'd think so, He could be on New Jersey Transit, though, so it could be pretty bad.
Anyways, if you have any questions for Ben, make sure to email him, ask him on Twitter, Facebook. Ask him for a review of the train ride, how it feels to ride a train in America. Ask him about his engineer's cap that he's wearing, how he bought an entire car to himself so he didn't have to talk to anybody. And just insult him for not making the show, because now he hasn't been out for 3 weeks.
Yeah. So we got a special guest next week, though. So there's going to be 4 of us on the show. We'll let you know more about that on social media as the show runs towards next Thursday. So
he's already delayed. It's going to be another week. So.
Oh, 2 weeks time.
No, that's fine. He said he'd come on for an hour next week. I'm like, well, might as well just wait till you come on properly. Cause it is what it is. It's easier that way.
Well, we don't even manage to start within an hour, so
right, yeah.
the joy of still working right up to the minute we get on the phone.
I don't have really any major updates. We're going to be talking about the Minnesota Search Summit
and search leads.
Yes, yep, I forgot about that. Our candle site, I've been after like the last 9 months. Oh, we actually picked up 10 keywords, and I'm all excited. Out of nowhere, we just blew through like 100 keywords that we picked up, and we got huge ranking boosts in the ones that we had. So it's like we finally stuck hard, and Ben told us today he would have the content done for our product pages, but I haven't seen it yet. So I think we'll see.
He's still on a train.
Yeah, you can't work on the train apparently. Even though I found a way to work on the Heathrow Express, and I could have worked on the other trains, but I didn't. So it's personal choice, I think.
They don't have Wi-Fi on the other train that we got.
Okay. So I guess I couldn't. I had a legitimate excuse, but so Candle Site's actually sticking for about 200 keywords, which obviously everyone watching knows. Not a lot, but for the very little amount of work we put into it, the content isn't bad, but it's definitely not great. So you might see this as somewhere if you're just starting out. Yeah, mediocre content, we'll just call it that. Maybe slightly better than mediocre, not to insult the person that wrote it for us, but it wasn't intended to be great. Just blast through it. And we built some links to it, and now all of a sudden it's just stuck. And yes, it took 9 months, but it's going to be interesting to see once we have like professional content on there to see where it goes. And I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think it's just the length of the content as well. I mean, what we ordered was just some short filler pages just to see what would stick. I mean, what are we going to do with like 250 words a page, that kind of stuff? SEO keywords jammed in a couple of times. It's not very.
But that does go to show, like, if you have some good links, 2 or 3 good links to a page that only has 300 words on it, surprisingly, you can rank for stuff that's getting like 3,500 searches a month. So it's like, I guess there's trade-offs. If you can write your content but can't afford links, write some really good content. If you can afford links and don't give a fuck about content, it's the.
Yeah, I think it's a balance. Like, if you have worse content, you need more links. If you have better content, you need less links. So it's generally, insert any other feature. Like, if your site loads faster, you need less links. If you have a better silo structure with better internal linking, you need less content and less links. It's the less good everything is, the more of it you need, within reason. Obviously, if you get yourself pandered or penguined, then you've gone too far on the muchness. So don't get those 10,000 PBN links.
I might have someone going to James.
Oh, we may have a guest.
Yeah. I don't know who he is. Eric Truss. Texas. Oh, I saw him on. So Dan Ray, I don't I assume that's his real name or something, but he runs a group on Facebook called the Super Cool Dan Ray White Hat SEO and Link Building Group. Yeah. It's one of, well, first of all, as I've talked about, it's one of the SEO groups I haven't been kicked out of. But the reason being I haven't been kicked out of it is because Dan actually does real work, and his training is actual, like, real training, teaching people link building. So we actually, like, on agreeable levels versus most of the people that I get in spats with. But
yeah, I mean, some of the groups, they're just people selling their bullshit information products, and
right.
they don't want any discussion of real stuff in there. They want you to be learning the latest elite PBN strategy for $2,000, and anyone talking about anything else isn't really welcome. So
yeah,
it's all like whitewashing the group, isn't it? Like just making sure people think everything's glorious in there and they should definitely buy the product.
Yep.
Whereas obviously his group is more actual discussion, which
and I've been loosely a part of. They've been doing a 30-day challenge. I think this week is the last week of. Everyone logs on at 9 a.m. my time, so that's 3 p.m. your time, and they all sit there and they work for 2 hours while they're all on camera in a group, and kind of like a social presence that you need to be working in. They have a little coffee break every 45 minutes, and I try to come in, but I've only done it a few times. It's cool. I talked to some of these people that are actually like doing real work, and the group of them, some days it's only a few, some days 20. They're actually like giving each other good advice and wanting to do better versus a lot of these really shitty training groups that are just like, I need to spend $100 on this course because Guru X said so.
And you got to put those courses. You got to put those courses in the bank. You don't read them or do them. You put them in the bank. It's a cash money tip there from Las Vegas. $40,000 a year you need to invest in courses, but you don't read them or use them. You put them in the bank. And if your wife questions you on it, she's being unreasonable.
Megan questions every dollar I spend for the business. What am I doing wrong?
I don't know. I mean, well, how many courses have you put in the bank?
0.
Exactly. I mean, if you were putting courses in the bank, she'd see the direction you were going in. But
oh yeah. Oh, anyways, I don't think I had much to talk about. I guess generally speaking, I was gonna say we saw this week a pretty general big spike, green spike in rankings. I didn't see anything other than the average weekly chatter about, there was a algorithm change over the weekend.
Yeah, it seems like quite a few sites that we monitor went up. Just looking at a few others on the down low here. Just
if anybody out there knows a lot about rich snippets and the Q&A and getting into knowledge graph, I'd like to have you guys on, because all the research I do, it's come down to, it's somewhat random who gets the snippet, because we're in an instance where the skin site is ranking organically sometimes 10 spot higher for a query, but that if we're number 1 organic and the other site's number 10, they'll still get the rich snippet. And I look at their markup, there is no markup. There's really no reason for them to have a snippet. And I don't know if maybe at one time they were ranking really high and the snippet never got lost because it's maybe unrelated to the actual ranking. I don't know. It's something I'd like to discuss in detail, but I don't know a lot of people that.
Yeah, because Vin used to be the expert, but he won't share any of his tips on the show for the rich snippets. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much everyone's like either this latest update. Everyone I'm looking at is either like up loads or like down just like 2 or 3%. There's hardly any of the sites we work with or we keep an eye on gone down much at all. Everyone seems to have gained. So I wonder what they were hitting, if it was maybe a content related penalty or boost, or kind of interesting. There's no real rhyme or reason to it.
My beer just did arrive. I must sneak away for 2 seconds.
Excellent. Is this chap coming on in a moment, or
I'm just waiting for him to add me? If you want to talk about your World Cup stuff quick, because I don't know anything about soccer. And
it's nothing to do with the World Cup. It's to do with DRM.
Oh, well, I'll be right back. Steve can talk to you about something interesting.
Well, I guess I'll talk about this first news item anyway. So it's just to do with it's the Electronic Frontier Foundation link in the description, talking about disabilities versus DRM World Cup edition. So a couple of the teams have colors of jerseys that were pretty similar to people with certain visual impairments. So they were just watching like the same colored jerseyed players playing against each other for two teams. They couldn't really see the difference. And there used to be software available which would take a stream you were watching and convert it to better color differences so that you would be able to tell them apart if you were someone who was visually impaired in that way, or colorblind, or any of those other kind of things. And unfortunately, DRM actually blocks those filters which were helping people with disabilities view content online better. And it was actually done on purpose when they agreed these new standards. All the browsers were locked into it, that only the rights holders would be able to decide what people with disabilities would be able to view their content. And of course, none of them, I say none of them, the majority of things haven't bothered to include any of the features that were available to people before the new DRM standards. And it kind of reminds me of just how so often with DRM, the paying customer ends up with a worse product than people who are pirating. So people who are on some illegal site pirating the stream of this would have been able to run their stream through their software to be able to actually watch it. People that had paid for it and were watching the legitimate DRM stream, it was basically useless to them. And it was the same with CDs with copy protection. You know, you couldn't play it on your computer, but if you downloaded it from Napster, you got a better copy than people who bought the original CD and stuff. So it's just an example of DRM, meaning paying customers are getting a shitter experience than people who haven't paid for it, which is kind of ridiculous. So definitely something I think it's just the amount of regulation now and stupidity that's being forced through by industry groups starting to impact everyone negatively. We talked about the Europe's latest borderline retarded law about not linking to things, and it just gets worse and worse. But people with disabilities not being able to watch content they paid for because their apps they were previously using to make it so they could watch it properly are being blocked is just a kind of new level of stupidity. So well done, World Cup broadcasters.
This is similar to how pissed off I was at not being able to watch 24 Hours of Le Mans a couple of weeks ago.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that was just insane. Like for most of the rest of the world, you could pay to watch it online, but Garrett, being an American, there was one channel had the rights, and you couldn't pay to just watch it as a one-off or get it on or anything.
Yeah, it's like I don't have cable, and it was on the Velocity channel, so I can't watch it obviously. And I went to Velocity thinking I could pay $15, $30, even $50 I would have paid to watch it for 20, the whole thing. Nope, you have to subscribe to the cable package to get it, which is $200 a month, because Velocity is like a really high-end add-on. Because obviously they have relatively limited viewership versus most channels, and no, I'm not locking into like a 2-year fucking cable contract just to watch 24 Hours Le Mans. So what does it do? It forces you to, one, pirate it, two, use a VPN, and then go do something else that you're not supposed to be doing. And I just don't get the logic behind it, why they wouldn't offer a paid viewership for it. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, like over here, the main sports network is Sky Sports, and you can pay like, I think it's like $20 and you get the whole week. It's kind of crazy.
That's insanely cheap, man.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. I mean, they have a lot of stuff that's pay-per-view as well on top, like obviously, but to watch the 24 Hours of Le Mans here would have been a lot more simple. Like, you could have added like BT Sport for a month or something for, I don't know, £15, £20 or something. whichever one of the two networks it was on, BT Sport or Sky, you'd have been able to get it pretty cheaply, but not for Americans. Everyone else got it easy. You guys, one channel.
Oh yeah.
So
anyways,
is Kissmetrics still shut down?
Oh, they replied yesterday. They sold out.
Oh,
they sold out to your favorite buddy Neil Patel.
well, he was one of the founders, so
I had thought that yes, he was a founder, but I also thought that they bought him out at one time.
I don't know.
Anyway, even if he was still a founder and a partner, he must have bought them out.
Yeah. Well, no, I believe that he now. But why would you close it down and just redirect to Neil Patel without telling anyone and just turn it off? People were paying customers.
The only thing that makes sense in my mind is there was some sort of hostility. Some people were probably upset internally, and they were just like, either they just weren't happy in general, or something happened with their relationship with Neil where they're just like, fuck it, we're all done. We're done. And that was that. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I think there's going to be more to this that comes out. I mean, because it's not like, when Rand steals all of one of his business's links. I mean, borrows legitimately all of his one of his site's links. Like, the thing still exists. Like, inbound's gone, but there's BuzzToro trending, which is kind of the same crappy articles linked as before. Like, this has just vanished. It's not like you go to neilpatel.com and you go onto the tools and there's like, it's on there. It's just gone. Kind of weird.
It is weird. But I guess we were just talking about this last night. We're seeing a lot of mergers and a lot of acquisitions lately that are all being funneled into a one-person brand. And these guys are typically like a one-person brand, but they're just building a bigger pyramid underneath themselves. Buying something for this, buying something for that. So it's interesting to see that the SEO world has finally turned into a corporate takeover world.
Well, there's so many. You look at the ad industry. There's so much consolidation already gone on there, and
right.
all these tiny SEO agencies that aren't growing are just ripe acquisition targets because you can take the customers in. Like, say you got an agency that's doing $3 million a year, and the owner's taking $1 million out. You can buy that. You can buy that.
You tell me an SEO agency where someone's making 33% profit on $3 million.
No, I'm just And then, there's a senior management team that overlaps with your senior management team, and like mid-level managers. You add all those together, and it's another $1 million. And then there's $1 million being spent on the junior people. So you can basically cut $1.5 million straight off the costs when you acquire it and put it into a bigger group, because you've already got the owners and senior managers, and you just split the clients up between existing teams and turn it into a cost thing. Well, I don't think Gary Vaynerchuk talked about that a lot in advertising, how those shops just do to use how they used to describe McCann on Mad Men. Obviously, the fictional agency McCann, not the real one, was described as a sausage factory all the time. Well, I'm sure the real one isn't.
Yeah.
But we'll leave that there. But yeah, I mean, I think Vaynerchuk's right that these are sausage factories when they turn from. But it is a way to squeeze huge amounts of value that the owners of the original business couldn't realize for themselves. So they are acquisitions that make sense on both sides.
Yeah.
Someone gets a couple million cash and they can squeeze out, they can squeeze out a 400% ROI over 3 years after.
Well, I mean, Mad Men does a good job at exemplifying the way it works. It's like people like Don Draper or Ted, yeah, they want those big clients, but if they're going to be on their own, they have to suck up the whole idea that they have to run their business. They're not just doing the creative work that they want. And it's the same as us in SEO. If we want to go after, like I'm probably stupidly going after Delta, because even if we get a link building contract, an influencer marketing contract out of them, the headaches that go with having such a huge client when we're relatively a mom and pop shop are enormously huge and relatively outweigh the benefit of me having a dream client. Versus if Ted and Don Draper go to McCann and they get their dream clients, all they have to do is do the work that they actually wanted to do. And they do the creative for Chevy and Buick. And I would do the work for Delta, but not have to worry about waking up at 3 in the morning wondering something about the business. So it does make sense on both sides. And it's just, I think there is a negative tone to where, oh, McCann has so much fucking money, or such and such agency that's Neil Patel that's acquiring all these agencies. He just has money and he's just looking to squeeze 2% out of it.
Well, I don't know. I don't think that's what he's done here. I don't know why he shut it down. None of it makes any sense.
This instance doesn't necessarily make sense. Yeah. The only thing that makes sense to me is someone was angry and they wanted out or whatever. I don't know. I'm shot in the dark. I have no idea, obviously. But it doesn't really make sense for something like Kissmetrics just to go. Phew.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding was that it was one of the decent products in the space. Like it wasn't the best, of course. I mean, there were loads of alternatives for heat maps, and it's quite a competitive space. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was things like GDPR compliance. Maybe they looked at what it would cost to be compliant and just decided that 40% of our customers are in Europe. It's going to cost us $50 million to fix this software so we can work in Europe. I mean, how do you get people to, what kind of opt-in do you have to get people to click to having all of their mouse movements tracked while they're on your site? Maybe their revenue is Europe skewed, like 40%, 30%, some big amount, and it just wasn't worth.
Hey, that makes me think about something about GDPR. If we're using a third-party plugin on a website serving EU traffic and we're tracking their mouse, that's a pretty private thing to do. Track their movement on a website. Are we required?
Oh yeah, you can't.
Are we required to track a fucking database of every mouse movement?
Well, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to do it under GDPR without explicit consent. You can't do any of that kind of stuff without explicit consent.
Yeah, my the attorney that did the purchase agreement for me, she has a client, I guess, that she's been guiding through GDPR. She had mentioned she might be interested in working on something together, but I kind of replied with a rant about how bad GDPR is, or just unorganized. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just how it doesn't make any sense the way it is. She didn't respond. I don't really know what she would want my help with because I'm not in the EU and don't have any interest in it.
No, exactly. I mean, we've always erred on the side of not using analytics much and not collecting any data anyway, so
yeah,
I don't really want anyone's personal data.
Maybe my arrogance caught up with me for only using built-in stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we literally have no one's data, so...
Yeah, the only thing that we store is your IP address when you hit the server, and that's not...
Well, even that, we've, turned off tracking for that from the EU now by default and stuff like that, so it's like...
I'm happy to...
I don't even know if we need to keep even the US ones. I'm kind of thinking we should just... we don't look at the server log anyway. I'm kind of of the view we should just turn it...
Let's say we get sued. Let's say we get sued and said, well, you stored this IP address in your server because they visited your website and you have a log saying they hit you. And it's like, well, I had no idea it was this person. Someone could have been using a VPN. Someone could have hacked this guy's server. Someone could have been on the same IP range on their ISP. Yeah, I don't know.
The reason that's in the law is to stop Facebook and these massive data aggregators doing it. Because I remember someone was talking to me about some of these IP data companies. They try and figure out your who you actually are from the IP plus loads of other data, so they can properly so they can match up IPs with mailing lists and stuff like that. So you can take an offline mailing list and they'll guess
they can match a habit to what was previously unknown, a block of IPs that now you're really okay.
Yeah, so they're just trying to avoid that kind of thing in the EU, which is pretty prevalent in the US. So it was aimed at the big people, and for people like us, just turning off the loggings because we don't look at it anyway. We don't need it. I'm tempted to turn it off for Americans as well, just because.
Well, they're starting that bill in California, and like I'm sure in a couple of years that'll be passed. So then it's like, well, let's say it actually stays isolated to California. You can't just block the state of California, because that's going to be a lot of traffic.
You just got to stop. You just got to stop tracking.
So then the assumption is it's going to go to the federal level in the United States. So you can't block the entire United States of America for a U.S.-based website. So yeah, you either become compliant or don't track shit, which for us, I know it doesn't work for many people. We don't need to track anything. I don't care who you are. I'll let our affiliates track you, and they can deal with it.
Well, and even then, you know, they're probably not even tracking. I mean, anyone in the EU isn't tracking anything. I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of tracking just turned on by default that you can just turn off and then not worry about it. Like, you don't have to ask people to consent to 47 cookies if you just turn it all off. I mean, you know, and retargeting has, there was a period when it was so effective because there weren't many Facebook ads anyway. Like, now everyone's advertising on Facebook, everyone's retargeting. It's just kind of annoying. Like, you buy a pair of shoes for your kid or something, and then you get retargeted with ads for the same shoes for 3 weeks. It's like, I already bought the fucking shoes you retargeted. You know, like,
no, that happens to me a lot with Amazon. I'll buy something, you know, I won't see a single Amazon ad until I've already bought it. And it's like, you'd think they'd have that identifier that they might. I guess I'm being pretty generous saying that Amazon hasn't figured out properly, but it's like, I've had stuff sitting in my cart for a week. I won't see a single ad. But the second I buy it, then I'll get an ad. And it's like, I already bought my windshield repair kit.
Like, how many of these do you think I need? Yeah. It's kind of dumb. So, bye-bye Kissmetrics.
Yeah, next up, you like Thrive. I'm not happy about loading this page because as soon as you load it, it's a huge popover for Thrive.
Yeah, like they I don't use any of their like opt-in or any of this bullshit.
Poor taste. Like, even if you're as big as Thrive Themes is, that's just some poor taste to have that big fucking.
So basically, they're coming for the theme shops and they're coming for Themelure and all these like site theme building tools. You're going to be able to design not just landing pages, because you can build your whole site in just the Thrive builder, because it will let you just start from building a page. You can have shared sections, so you could design the menu once and set, but it would be a lot of hassle. This just lets you make a proper WordPress theme. So you design the sidebar in the Thrive visual editor, you design the menu and the header area in the visual editor, so you basically can design your whole site, the whole theme, which has been the big weakness of Thrive, is they don't have many themes, and you could say that's a problem with Divi as well, but I find the two default Divi themes, Divi theme and Extra, to be much less annoying than the default Thrive themes. So having a default builder where you're not dealing with any kind of hard-coded theme at all, you just get in there, lay it out the way you want, and then get cracking with your page designs. It looks like a massive win. We're on the beta, which comes with non-disclosure, so I can't say much else. But I'm pretty excited to when they launch properly, so we can do a more thorough review. But I think Thrive themes at the minute are going to be well positioned to be ahead of my previous favorite, which a few years ago was always Divi. Thrive's definitely quicker to work with. They've added the few features that Divi had that they didn't have, like the shared widgets. Like, that was the whole reason we didn't build our new website on Thrive. We built it on Divi was because we have like pricing tables and we need to change them in one place, but they're going to be on like 20 pages because like every page, it doesn't matter whether it's our SEO page for white label link building or our SEO page for outsourced link building, outsourced SEO. You know, we've got all these SEO pages. Every single one has the price table on, and that would have meant, you know, coding a proper widget, embedding it, messing around. You know, Thrive just didn't come with that by default. Now it does. So they've added that. Now you don't even need a theme designer. You can just do whatever you want with your theme. I think Thrive's moving themselves into a position. Well, they've had to, though, because obviously WordPress has made a page. It's going to have a page layout tool by default.
Yeah.
So just having a page builder isn't enough anymore. This is like, well, you know, this is just a complete design everything, your whole theme. It's going to be huge for designers. You know, they've been struggling because there's a whole kind of WordPress industry where there's people doing sub $1,000 quick brochure websites for businesses. And what they've typically done is they've worked with the Genesis framework, or they've worked with Divi, or they've worked with Themler. But it was getting more and more work to get everything integrated and tied together and leave it in a state that was easy for the business to make some quick changes. Being able to do all of your design work within Thrive is going to help, you know, these small web designers that are doing maybe 20 or 30 of those sites a month in a team of 3 or 4 of them. It's going to be a really powerful tool for them. It's going to be really cool for small businesses as well, because it's going to keep, you know, cheaper design available for people that do just need a 5-page site. You know, get it up, and then you can get your marketing agency in to start your social media, start your link building, start your content, whatever you need, instead of having to spend a few $1,000s on something a lot more advanced. Which obviously, if you've got the money, you might not want a default Thrive themes. You might still pay your designer to design something completely separate and just use the layout builder. But for the smaller businesses, I think this is going to be super cool. And for just getting your authority sites knocked together, it's going to be super easy to test things, A/B testing, different page designs. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the direction Thrive's going. So I think if you're starting something new, definitely give it a look. It won't be quick enough to please Jared, who comes on the show. It will not load in 0.4 seconds.
Hey, I got our Divi site down to 1.2 seconds. I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, you know, our website, the Reach Creator site, loads in 0.9. That's in Divi. So, but it won't get down.
We talked about this. Some of these people are really struggling with site speed. I'll pull it up quick. I didn't do anything difficult. It was all off-the-shelf plugins for free, and a few changes in Divi.
And a PHP upgrade that broke half the server.
Yes. We were still running PHP 5 on one of our servers, 5.2, and I upgraded to 7 because it's way faster, which I obviously now know. Upgraded to 7, which will shave probably a few seconds off your sites. If you're like running a 5-second load time and you're probably still in PHP 5, just going to 7 is going to save you a few seconds. But you need to make sure WordPress is updated on all your sites on your server, because we have small clients that we provide web hosting to, but we don't do management. Accidentally broke their websites for an hour before I realized.
Well, and when you upgrade to PHP 7 as well, it puts back to all the PHP default settings, which are super low memory limits. Yeah. Divi needs way more memory than PHP by default when you upgrade to 7. So all our Divi sites were 500ing. Like, we had one guy, and bless him for still coming through to us and putting his inquiry in. He was like, it took me 27 minutes to get your contact form to send you a message. I was like, oh man, I couldn't figure it out, because like sometimes the site was loading in like 0.9 seconds, other times it was 500ing, and you just couldn't figure it out. Luckily we got to the bottom of it. It was just one memory setting, did that server wide, and I don't think we're 500ing anymore. If anyone wants to try reloading Reach Creator 100 times for us and seeing if it 500s on any of you at any point, then let me know. But I think we got it fixed.
So they did a server-wide adjustment, right? From my knowledge.
Yeah. All the PHP 7 sites on that server now.
I noticed our skin site, we got kicked down to uploading uploads are capped at 2 megabytes again. I had to go back through it and edit.
Oh yeah, they didn't. Yeah, that wasn't the thing they changed.
What is that?
It was
PHP init, init initiate. Yeah, I gotta change that again. Do that.
Yeah, change
that's not a big deal, but client side stuff is like, oh yeah.
Well, it'll stop you uploading stupidly big images that we should be shrinking first anyway.
Well, yeah. So now I'm running through them through Kasium, but I got that plugin that shrinks them anyways, so it's like.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so me being lazy, now I'm running them through Kasium so I can at least upload them, and then the squisher on the site squishes them again, and it's like... Because normally I'll just upload a 7 meg image, and then it'll squish down to 500 kilobytes or something.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So what do we got next? The
JavaScript and loopholes and how stuff can work. Yeah, I guess what I got of it, basically, like, if you give permission to something, some other thing to access a page and run a script effectively, like in an iframe, you've given them permission to keep running scripts on that iframe, and they might be running that script against different URLs in your site, which is kind of like a gray area of not necessarily... Well, it's going to become legality because of GDPR, but... I don't know how to put it.
Oh yeah, I get this. Yeah, so the NHS had they'd used the Facebook development tool pack to build some Facebook integration for their site. Because they've used the developer tool pack, Facebook then had access to any page where their code was loaded, whether or not
well,
it
not
was
necessarily
used on that
page. If they had
including logged in areas.
So
with private medical information.
If you're on like /admin, and for the NHS that was like they're overcoming access to everything. Supposedly the idea is you can only run scripts on stuff that /admin would be able to run scripts on, which you'd obviously have some sort of limitations to. But the way that JavaScript SDK works, it means you can go to some random private patient's page and run a script or an iframe and scrape that data away. When that isn't exactly the intent, and it's not exactly a bug, it's just the way it works. But now it becomes...
Well, yeah, it's essential to make JavaScript work. So, like, if you...
So now the question is, well, this is the way JavaScript works on one side versus, well, we don't necessarily care how it works. You're still violating trust and you're violating privacy.
Well, you just can't use the Facebook scripts on any pages that you need to be that have secure personal information on. They did point out though that there isn't really a way around it if you want to use Facebook's JavaScript SDK currently. So you just have to not use it currently, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, put the Zuckerberg back on trial.
There was quite a good discussion about it on. Oh no, that was for the next one. I didn't link to the discussion on this one.
On Hacker News or what?
Yeah, the Hacker News things to do with IRC.com. Someone's going to bring back IRC apparently.
Oh, I'd be a fan of that. I remember a couple months ago, you and I made our own IRC just so we could talk away from Slack.
Yeah. I mean, I think Slack was down again this week, major outage again. There's one almost every month. I mean, they might have that 99 point whatever uptime they promise, so I'm not accusing them of breaking their promise. What I will say is the downtime is always during the workday, because they do their stupid updates during the workday. So it's always up when I'm asleep.
Where is Slack based?
US.
So why isn't that just like standard? As long as the internet's been around, you apply hot patches at like 3 in the morning, because then you know you have like 2 hours to fix something.
What happens now with these companies is they deploy often. They have this deploy often methodology. So one guy makes one change, you check it, code review, deploy. Check it, code review, deploy. Stuff's just getting deployed. Bang, 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 bang. And to be honest, Slack barely works as it is.
It's awful.
It's a pretty
How many times a day do you have to reload Slack? Because if we pin something in our personal chat, it doesn't show up, or if I unpin it, it doesn't go away. You have to reload it, and then I forget, okay, the reason I pinned this is because I know I need to do it. and because I'm so stupid, I can't remember if I actually did this, and it's just like, I just don't know why that can't work.
It's a mess as it is, but it's such a simple, you know, it's IRC with a to-do list and unfurled images.
I mean, yeah, so why not bring IRC back? You can write a bot probably easier, relatively easy.
Yeah, you could have a to-do list bot, no problems. I think that was the thing. That's what they were mainly saying.
That's all it really is it's a really pretty IRC, and it's really not that pretty anyways.
That's what they were saying on Hacker News, is that you can build an IRC client that unfurls images. You can build an IRC client that has bots that handle various things. It was so extendable, and I think that's been a big problem with the internet now. All development goes into proprietary software. You know, like when we need to chat on the internet, so they made a standard for chat.
Yeah.
We need to send emails to people, so there was a standard for email. Everything was, you know, we need a way to access service for file transfer, so they made a standard for it. Now everything's like, oh, we need a messenger, so we'll make that proprietary so nothing else can talk to it. So it's like 57 different messengers, and now you can't even combine them all. So people have got like 15 apps on their phone because they need to Snapchat and Facebook and this. I mean, or you can be like me and just like, I only use Skype, and if you don't want to talk to me on Skype, then you just can't talk to me. But they're your two choices. You either completely just pick your least hated option out of the various terrible options and make everyone who wants to speak to you use that one, and you have to pick one that's at least popular enough. I guess you could get away with Skype, Facebook, or maybe Snapchat if everyone's youngish. I don't know, maybe Snapchat's not even bigger.
Snapchat sucks for talking to people. Messenger on Facebook, I forget, Messenger is a part of Facebook, but you can use it outside of Facebook. I talk to people, I talk to clients actually a lot on there, but Skype, Messenger.
I think Skype Messenger.
You know, that's why I used to love Trillium back in the day, before they got all ridiculous and sold out.
Pigeon for you Linux users.
Yeah, Pigeon. You can just combine everything. Super simple GUI. It combines every service you want into one, but on your end, it's just the same square box. It doesn't matter if it's coming from Facebook, AOL, back in the day, obviously, an IRC channel, Google Talk, Skype, ICQ, anything. Yahoo Messenger. It was all the same. We didn't care which service it was, as long as we could talk to that person. It was awesome. And I haven't used Trillium in ages, or Pigeon, because I haven't been on Linux for ages.
Well, no one has any of those messengers anymore.
Yeah.
Well, most of them are shut down. Like MSN shut down, Yahoo shut theirs down.
Google Talk's gone, unless you're in like your Gmail or whatever.
Yeah. So I think we need to go back to bringing out standards for things that people use. Like there should be one video standard.
Well, not just standards, but when you look at something like Slack, like our company, I guess to call it, yeah, it's cool that we can like share videos and stream, and we can have a random channel where we're talking about this video and this picture and stuff. But when you look at it, it's like back in the day, from a workflow point of sense, like we've added quite a bit of distraction. And it's not that we don't want people working with us to be bored, and hateful, and spiteful, and we want them to have fun and be happy with their job, but it's like we've also added just a lot of bloat to the daily 8 hours of work a day. Versus, I mean, if you go back to AOL Instant Messenger, relatively flat, boring chat thing, but you could spice things up a little bit, or you could just drop a link to something, and when you had time, you could look at it. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting sentimental.
I don't know. I think you're right. I mean, I think when there's a notification, and Slack's very clever. They do things like on the desktop client. Like if one of your, like, say, because I'm in a bunch of marketing ones, because you know, Garrett handles the Facebook groups, I handle the Slack groups for like picking up business and talking to people in the industry. Like if you get a notification or like someone at channels in any of the groups you're in, that tab will have a notification which will stay on your desktop. So even if it's not your main Slack channel, you've got a permanent notification, and you want to know if you've got a real notification, like someone in your actual team's at Steve Duen or whatever. So you can't just right click on it though and say mark read, because I know like in some of these groups on a Friday at 4 o'clock they have their Friday what have you achieved this week. Some weeks I'll take part, some weeks I don't want to post anything, but I know what that notification is. I don't want to have to click into it, mark it read, then click back. But there's no right click clear, because they know that they'll get more. You'll be dragged into the Slacky goodness if you can't just clear it. So it's kind of annoying. I don't know. I mean, I like that there's the free version, because there's loads of communities that wouldn't exist, because no one in the right mind would have 4,000 members and pay Slack's prices, unless they're a big corporate. But so I think they've done some things that are great, but the actual product is pretty weak. I wish something else had won.
I mean, like when you think about it, for a messenger app, Slack is really not that impressive for what it does. It's just
well, it breaks. It breaks like a pretty IRC physically goes down.
10 years ago, you could use IRC and probably send something to Trello. You could send it to this app. They have an API. I could send something to any app I want. We do it. You do it with when we get trial link orders. You know, like not exactly like difficult stuff to do here. And it's all they've just made a really pretty IRC, and they're charging companies that pay for it. They charge them out the ass to use it. Like my neighbor, his company uses it. I would guess like if it was going to cost us to upgrade like $5,000 a month, I can't imagine what my neighbor's company pays. They're a big company. I'm sure $30,000 a month just to have 1,000 employees on Slack. That's fucking insane for chat. Why wouldn't you develop something in house? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, their argument is, I've seen this discussed on Hacker News a lot, that it's the, you spend, like, per programmer, it's only like $50 a year, you're paying them $150,000, it's like basically nothing, but you're giving them all the productivity boosts of Slack. That kind of argument just doesn't make sense.
No, it's that kind of argument is what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. I think most likely it's
you
not.
You could have probably taken a good. If you're paying someone $150,000, he could probably write Slack from nothing to start in 1 year alone. Like like a good programmer like that, a senior programmer, could probably get it pretty close to what it is in a year.
Well, I would if I was doing it, I would start with a private IRC channel,
right?
And just add the features on top with a bot. I'd make my client just be a pure IRC client. You could probably start with an open source IRC client and just bolt on some project management stuff. And even then, like the most useful thing you can do with Slack is add things to Trello as a message. Because then, the person can see you've added it, can discuss it with you in the channel when you've added it, away from Trello, and then so like Slack. I mean, I prefer, my preference is, but the team doesn't like it, which I guess is an argument for Slack. My preference is
say no one.
You have all your chat on Trello, like you chat on the card, and all the chat then is completely contained to that card permanently.
What they don't like is we cut out all the filler that isn't necessarily necessary.
Well, I don't mind that, but you don't need any features to have the filler.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, you really don't need any features at all to have the filler. I think Microsoft were too slow to bring out their business chat, because I think theirs looks fine, and it obviously supports Skype built in. It's cheap for people that already have, that are already heavily using Office 365 cloud stuff in their business. But Slack already was so embedded everywhere. They're probably struggling to make inroads, which is a shame. I think they probably did a better job. But then it's easy to do a better job coming second. But you've already missed the market share.
Right.
You have to do a Google and like make the previous search engines look retarded to win market share if you're second.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, we can hear it. Have you got some wild coyotes come in?
There's 2 chihuahuas here. My dog and then Megan's sister's dog. And apparently all the girls and my 7-month-old son are howling at the moon or something. Call house phone.
Calling house phone.
Anyways. Anyways, moving on over to the medium of disrupting the Kardashians, the evolution of branding.
Yeah, so this is super weird. This is this virtual.
Can you guys not howl at the moon, please?
We're busy, okay?
Okay. I can't wait.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take up that new office, I think, that you've been offered. I think that's the only way. The only way is new office. So yeah, this is a super weird fake girl that like travels the world and wears weird clothes. Apparently, she's very successful as an influencer. Some company started her as like a kind of experiment.
So
I
this
find
is
it
all
very
CGI
weird.
or what?
Yeah, she's a CGI influencer, yeah. Apparently, she gets a lot of likes. And apparently she's woke, whatever that means.
I'm not exactly keen on what woke. Has she had an awakening? Just she knows the concept of life? Is that...
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know.
Because all I see here is she's just a model.
She's a pretentious fake, like... I mean, I guess, you know, if you're going to have fake computer somethings, fake computer, fake people, it's like the Radiohead song.
Do people that are saying that like this, do they know that she's fake? Because looking at these pictures...
They must do. I mean, she looks really creepy.
She looks fake to me. I can just tell, but it's like I'd be more concerned and probably I'm gonna guess more realistic, saying a lot of people think she's real, like where she's sat next to this person in the lawn.
Yeah. Some of them look more real than others for sure.
Like I can see like this photo shoot where she's alone and it doesn't really look real, but even when you single her out in this photo shoot in the lawn, she doesn't look real. But if you're just glancing at this picture, it's a model with whatever this person is and a waiter in the background having a meal, a fancy meal or something. And that's that. And insert caption about Eminem and Mom's spaghetti. What's that?
76,613 likes. I mean, I guess it makes sense for brands because paying real influencers is a pain in the ass. Like if you can just make a robo influencer, tell your brands.
I mean, realistically, what is the cost for someone that knows 3DS to make this model? You might pay them like 40 grand to do a full feature set on it, and then we can throw Tommy Hilfiger clothes on her or whatever this.
Well, I think once you've designed her, like if you're a big brand, once you've designed her and got you can just create
you can throw her anywhere for relatively little money compared to buying influencers, and the world is so stupid.
Well, I think it'll wear off. I mean, I think.
Well, I hope so.
I mean, to be honest,
I hope this doesn't even come to the point where it needs to wear off. I hope this just doesn't happen.
Well, Instagram weirds me out. I don't really understand the point of it. Like, I can get YouTube. Like, YouTube, someone's gonna talk for a bit. Like, you want to find out what Lufthansa's new first class is like. Some guy or girl's gonna get on there. They're gonna go to all the lounge. They're gonna talk to the air hostess. They're gonna eat the food and show you what it's like. They're gonna tell you a bit about how they've been. You're gonna get like some kind of information. It's like a documentary or something. It's like, or you watch like you know, you watch someone doing a lecture about quantum mechanics or something, it's going to be like a real lecture about something. I don't really understand why you would like this picture of just some random model, even if she was real, eating, you know, not eating a spaghetti. I don't really understand Instagram.
It doesn't make
I'm not
any
gonna
sense
lie.
to me.
I'm not going to lie. I don't know what's the point of this. So I understand influencers where they can give you some information somehow, like someone who writes really amazing, thoughtful stuff in your industry or in one of your hobbies, and you can go and read, like, I don't know, like if there was some new way of making Garrett's car that he refuses to replace last another 10 years, and he read that, and that'd be really useful. But like, if someone, like, I can't see Garrett just looking at pictures of random cars on Instagram or something. It just doesn't. I don't understand the.
It doesn't hit people like us. Instagram is for people that generally, unfortunately, a majority of people in the world just get sucked into an image of stuff where it's unattainable for them, and they're pleasing themselves by like, oh, maybe one day this can be me. Maybe one day that'll be me. And
maybe one day I can be so rich I can leave exactly a quarter of my pasta.
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to eat my entire meal because I know it cost me $180 for a plate of pasta. I'm not going to feel guilty leaving $50 of pasta on my plate. You know, it's like maybe one day, but for me, it's just like I just don't give a fuck. I drive a 22 car. Yeah, do I like cars? Sure. Do I build cars? Yeah, but it's always...
Oh yeah, I wasn't ripping on it.
No. I'm just like,
I'm jealous that you can keep your car on the road like that.
I'm just adding to the point where it's like, I don't think Instagram is for people that genuinely have a passion for stuff. It's people that aspire to having a passion and get stuck in that rut that we're always talking about. You know, it's just, instead of just sitting in the background wanting something, go do it. Once you make that decision, everything gets, I don't want to say easy because it's not easy, but that getting over that hurdle of just starting to do it is the hardest part.
Well, I think Gary Vaynerchuk, his kind of boot sale thing, I kind of get why he did that. When he started doing it, promoting people to do it, and I was like, what the hell's he doing? Like, what's the point of this? But I think it was just to get people to realize that if they skip watching Netflix on a Saturday morning and just go do something, they can make some money.
Yeah.
And it just kind of motivates them then to, oh, maybe I'll learn something more sophisticated than this. Because he was like just showing them how to go to like a car boot or whatever, pick up a few things, flip them on eBay, and make a few $100 rather every weekend. He was like, I still do it because it's fun. Like if I see a boot sale and I just happen to be driving past, I pull off and stop and throw a few things in the trunk that I know I can get $300 for, because why the fuck not? Takes me 5 minutes. But people are like sat watching Netflix moaning that they've got no money, and I guess he was trying to just get people to do that first step. And you know, people like us, we try and get people to do the first step in something difficult, like go read the entire crash course on Builder Society, start a website, learn to write, do your 400 pages of content, start building links. 9 months of hard work, you'll make your first $100 or something. Like, people give up sooner than that if they're in a rut, like Garrett was saying. So get out there and do that first thing, and finding something easy for them to do first. Then they're like, oh, so maybe if I learn something more advanced, something more sophisticated, I can. Some people will make something and sell it instead of. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't get it when he first started doing it. I thought he'd gone insane. It's like, why are you doing 400 videos a month about boot sales? I was like, what the?
Yeah.
But then you start seeing the tweets from people that have done it, and you realize that it was the first thing they'd ever done. It's kind of that first step's hard, I think, for people that are stuck in a rut. But you're right, the addiction of fake model girl not eating her pasta on Instagram is pretty scary, because they said before in previous generations sports were the opiate for the masses, but there's only so much sport on. I mean, there's more now than there was, you know, a generation ago, because you can watch everything on cable now, like on 4,000 channels or whatever. But even then, there's only so much sport on, whereas you can just sit on this all day looking at weird pictures in places you're never going to go. But yeah, I think we'll see some interesting innovation before it dies out. I'm not as optimistic as Garrett. I think we'll see a lot of brands who are, there's brands that are spending a couple of mil a month on influencers. It's going to be super tempting for them to put $1 million into the development of their own branded fake person and give it a run for a year, because that's all free exposure once it starts picking up. So I'm not as optimistic as Garrett that it'll fizzle out quickly. I think it'll
probably get worse. It'll probably be like Blade Runner, where just on apocalyptic demise and advertisements everywhere you can look. Anyways, so Blender was having an issue the past month. All of a sudden, their entire channel pretty much got shut down. And through the course of it, like, they have some relatively high-viewed stuff. They didn't really have an account manager, from what I can tell from YouTube, which you would think they would. At least some sort of dedicated point of contact.
I don't think anyone does.
See, that's... Even though we're on YouTube right now streaming live, it's like, I have no idea how this is supposed to work. What if we were getting 1 million hits a month? I would fully expect to have someone that I can talk to, not 24/7, but I should have John Capital One Boy that I should be able to call and at least leave him a voicemail, and he'll call me back in the morning and I'll answer a question.
No.
And so that's what's most shocking to me is like these guys are doing millions.
You will get no such John.
And this is what they've gone through. They didn't know what they did wrong, and it turns out they did nothing wrong. It was just a bad series of events that just happened to randomly conspire. Yet, if you read through it, it's like they wanted contractual terms because they're such an influencer and getting so many views that it's kind of like locking someone down to Vivo, but you're not on Vivo. Really ridiculous on YouTube's part, especially when he mentions they have a separate channel where they don't want anything monetized at all. It's all for free. There's no ads. There's nothing. It's just...
Well, that was the point. They weren't monetizing it,
yeah.
And if you were non-monetized, you had to like opt into this like different thing to confirm it after they changed the privacy. But it was super well hidden, so they just didn't ever notice that they had to do it. So in all countries where you had to have opted into this new privacy setting, they would just automatically, this is not available in your country. It's kind of crazy. They played around with some open source, like not open source, like some peer-to-peer video platforms and stuff. But as people on Hacker News were pointing out, I should say Y Combinator News were pointing out in the discussions, you might well be able to host your videos there, but there's problems there from a privacy point of view, because unless you're letting people opt out by default from peer-to-peer sharing, they're all sharing what they're watching. Their IPs are public. Right. You're stealing their bandwidth to cover your hosting costs. There's all kinds of brand reputational issues if you were a big brand and you switch from YouTube. Like, sure, YouTube has its problems because YouTube has the mothership and they track everyone's views and what they're doing, but that's entirely different than it's just generally publicly available. And who would you rather have the legal responsibility to deal with the US government and their view on what you were tracking, YouTube or your own server? I'd much rather YouTube dealt with what they're allowed to do with whatever data they're getting from our viewers than we had to host them ourselves and deal with whatever we were supposed to do. So, because, if the US government says to YouTube, you're not allowed to do that anymore, they'll just stop doing it and we don't have to think about it. We can just keep streaming on YouTube. And so I don't think there's an easy solution. YouTube's too powerful at the minute. There's some good paid alternatives for hosting video, like, Vimeo. What's the other one that we switched to recently from... we used to be with before we switched to Vimeo? I forget now, but yeah, like people like Vimeo are good.
Vimeo, we had some issues with for a while, but now we're back using.
We're back with them. Yeah, we used someone else in between. I can't remember who now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vimeo just had some minor technical issues for a little while a few years ago, and we switched. But it's been fine since we switched back, and they're so reasonably priced for unless you're a massive enterprise company. But then it's nothing to you then to pay a few thousand, and for the rest of us, it's really affordable. So, but then the live streaming stuff like this is super cool on YouTube. So there isn't an easy solution. I think on balance, I think YouTube's a good product. I think on balance, the YouTube team's trying to do the right things, but like all of Google's brands, there's no support. Like we talked about that one before, where some idiot had done some stupid thing on his personal Gmail and got like all the company accounts where he was a recovery email address banned, and whatever happened there, I don't know. Garrett, I think, said in the end it might have just been a fake story or whatever, but there is no support. So even with a viral story going round about Google being in the wrong, it took them 48 hours to notice and respond to it saying this is fake. Like, so there's no response even when it's in their interest to respond, let alone when you're just one person needing help. So there just isn't enough staff for the service, and it's quite common with all of the cloud providers now.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know what this word lift thing is, Garrett.
I don't know. I think when I added it to the list a while ago, it was just something to talk about.
So it's like an AI SEO guru.
Yeah, but I think I just want to talk about it because it's like you can put arbitrary points on what's important in SEO, and it's just another service that is saying your competitors have this many words, so you need this many words, or your competitors have this many links, so you need this many links, or you need to organize your content this way. So it's just like a really sophisticated bot from, I don't know. This is from a couple weeks ago. I don't really remember the point of it, but it was just.
I'm just getting a free SEO audit.
I don't really remember anymore. It's just more the plugin that does what an SEO expert would do. Most SEO experts I know don't use plugins to do this, so it's like
here we go. It's generating.
Okay.
It looks like basically it's just another SEO audit tool. It's going to tell me about title tags, it's literally just pulled up. Like any of these SEO audit tools you can buy for your agency to plug in. It's a lead gen thing.
I'm looking at the pricing now. So yeah, for €79 a month, you can scan up to 100 articles. You can get theme developer.
We're missing a meta description, Garrett. Can you on Reach Creator?
I don't even think I have access to that site. It's on you.
No, it's definitely your fault. I don't know anything about technical SEO. It's all on you, man.
I'll tell you the.
I've got it's okay.
on the other side. The plugin.
Yeah, I must admit it's probably my fault when I migrated it to Divi. I probably just didn't set any of the stuff up because they're all custom like Divi layouts. They're not proper WordPress posts. So
I've actually been having fun with on the Skin site writing what I think are engaging meta descriptions. Like nothing to actually do with the. Well, it's obviously to do with the page, but it's like we published an article recently. This might give the site away.
No, don't give anything away.
Let's say let's say we wrote an article about how your air conditioner doesn't work.
Yeah, go on. That
doesn't work well in the summer when it doesn't work well in the winter because if you understand the laws of thermodynamics, blah blah blah. So that's what the page is about. Your air conditioner won't work during the winter, even if it's 100 degrees in your house. It's not going to work because the condenser's outside, where it's -5. So, and I made my meta description something like, what, really? My air conditioner won't work 365 days out of the year because I live in Minnesota? Like, you know, it's not like, it's more like attention-grabbing clickbait type titles. So I've been experimenting with that in my descriptions and click-through rate. And I'm seeing that type of stuff where you would think, like typical clickbait on like social networks and that type of stuff, where it's really heavily influenced, it doesn't have that much weight in SERPs. I think more people are, in my own experience, looking towards just what's the title of the fucking page, and is that going to help me get what I want out of this query? And I think I saw, like last summer, I asked Kit to look into writing engaging copy for meta descriptions to hopefully include CTR. But I guess I generally don't look at meta descriptions, honestly, when I'm Googling stuff. I just look at the page title, assuming that's what it's about.
It does have an impact on click through. I know a lot of people are doing the LinkedIn trick where you deliberately write a meta description that cuts off. If
that's the kind of stuff.
If you're trying a new type of mattress and you've gone slightly too hard, you might ... and they deliberately write it so that it won't fit, and it cuts off at that point. And so you got to click it. You got to click that bad boy to see what you're doing to yourself if you've got it slightly too hard.
Something. Yeah, so that's the trickery I need to.
This is just a standard automatic SEO audit. There's nothing.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Apparently, it gives you the typos you can register. We can register reachcreateoff.com.
At this point, I think that's the only reason I can remember that I put it on the list. But
yeah, I mean, this isn't smart. I'm sure they spent some time writing it, but it's no better than anyone else's.
Oh. Yeah, sorry to say, guys. Just yeah, I mean, hats off.
It was a bit of fun. Fun.
You know, good guys.
Well, our site is super optimized for mobile, though, apparently. So
I don't believe that.
Good job. Well, that's just good job, Divi. That's Divi out the box then, because I didn't fucking do anything.
Google.
I never even touched on Divi. I never even touched like it has the mobile settings for each widget. I never even touched it. So Divi obviously.
I've never touched it either for the skin site specifically, and Google does not like it. That's the only. Yeah.
Well,
so you might want to work on that.
I would trust Google over this pretend.
Yeah, you guys should probably work on that and being a little more on
yeah. The machine fired me.
Yeah.
I thought this was an amazing story. This is a super
good
read. Yeah, super good read.
Excuse me.
So the TLDR is this dude, just like he's a contractor. He goes into work. His boss thinks everything's fine, but the agency that he's contracted through thinks he's been fired. And eventually he's just gradually getting locked out of more and more stuff until eventually security escorts him out the building. And they just end up having to rehire him because someone had started they hadn't renewed his contract on time, so his automatic firing procedure had started, and no human could fix it. And I think, the joke in Little Britain, the comedy show, where it was like the computer says no and the banks couldn't make a decision, and we encounter more and more of this inept computer decision making in our lives at the minute. Everything from checking in at the airport, and you've got some complicated routing and the computer can't cope, so someone's got to do manual phone calls and get codes and get your boarding passes generated manually. But at that point you've had to queue up at a special help desk because you couldn't use any of the machines and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's a worrying trend how much inept computer technology is being given absolute power. It's a really good read, though. I recommend you guys have a little read of that one. It's a good read. And also bear it in mind when you're writing a really clever script to automate a process at your business, that you know, the manager should be able to push the stop button, and someone human should be able to figure out what's going on. So our entrepreneur, Garrett.
Yeah, so somebody had a bit of a justified rant. What's the TLDR on this one? Don't buy into hypes. Buy another fucking ebook.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I guess, someone who's just kind of walked into one of the standard kind of traps set by a scammer. It's a bit of a harder read than the last one, but
well,
that's
he's talking about having a skill set versus maximizing SEO or something like, quote, Alibaba, question mark, that's a website, not a skill. Retail arbitrage, you're a peddler, not a merchant. It's like when you look at things in like at a long scale, like when you look at the stock market, the American stock market, you don't look at it day to day unless you're a day trader. Like, that's not my point either. It's like you look at it historically, you expect it to go up, right, over 150 years, or not 150 years, whatever the fuck it's been around for, it doesn't matter. When you look at people that are working in e-commerce, there's always going to be people that kind of weasel their way into little niches. But you don't call someone that weasels their way into something a master at actually running a store. They just found a way to like drop ship stuff really cheap and make a profit. That doesn't make you a store owner, even though people call themselves a store owner. That's why it says, oh, you launched a Shopify store? You and 100,000 people did that. And you're arbitraging someone else. You're not a merchant. You're not a store owner. You're just someone that bought something really low. I don't. You got to read the posts. It make a lot more sense than my drunken rant.
There's a massive like I don't want to call it bullshit, but
it's like what's an actual skill?
There's a massively overhyped course doing the Amazon stuff where you just go to AliExpress, you find something that you can get slightly cheaper than. You make a brand up for it so that you're not just reselling it, and then you try and game Amazon to sell it, drop shipped from AliExpress and stuff like that. And it's, you know, I think the course is $50,000 or something. It's like,
yeah.
How many people are going to actually be able to execute those steps well enough? Because I don't doubt for a minute the guys who came up with it have been able to do it successfully.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But the problem is the skill you actually need to do it is nothing to do with the stuff they teach you. Like, they teach you how to find a cheap product. They tell you to rebrand it.
Here's my favorite thing.
The skill is the sales copywriting on your Amazon pitches and gaming Amazon, which is much, much harder. Like, if you're a great
here's the best 4 sentences in this article. The golden rule is this: if someone is as good as they say they are, then why are they spending time selling to you instead of running their own business? I knew guys in one of the most competitive SEO industries. None of those guys ran a blog selling SEO advice. They just shut the fuck up while making you a fuck ton of money. While making a bunch of fuck you money.
I agree with that to a point, but if you're in the industry where reputation matters and you're gonna, like, we never used to appear at all when we were making less money. As we've become more successful and our business has grown, we've making more time to guest post. We do this YouTube show now. We actually go to conferences, we never went to one fucking conference when we were starting out and we were struggling.
Well, we couldn't afford to.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think I look at Gary Vaynerchuk, like he's constantly putting content out despite growing the fastest growing ad agency in history.
You know, like, you're going to have to buy, at this point, for mentioning Gary so often, you're going to have to buy me and Vin a bar tab. just because you've said it so much, Vince
never-
can't possibly drink this much liquor.
He never appeared in Vegas to take his bet,
Oh,
so
that's
I
right,
got
yeah.
scot-free. So now I'm just doing it to wind him up. But no, I mean, he's a good example of the opposite of that. Like, you can be putting out shitloads of content and building something really successful. I mean, you can do it relatively cleanly like Gary does, or you can be a shyster about it a little bit like Russell Brunson does. Like, although to be fair to Russell,
I'm
he
biased.
gives you the option of buying all of his information in his $7 book, or you can buy the exact same information from him for $5,000, and he gives you both choices. It's not like he's refusing to sell you the book. You can just read his book.
I'm biased. I just like to hang out with the people. Like, we've had opportunities in the last couple of years to really meet people that are the industry leaders, and we've met them by relatively just random mistake. But they don't. No one knows who they are in certain industries in SEO. They don't talk to anybody. They just do their thing. They don't go to conferences. They don't do this. They don't do that. And I guess it just aligns more with me because I don't.
Well, even some of the ones who do, like, that are known in the industry, people like Joe Sinkwitz, like, he's super legit, like one of the original people that made millions from crazy sites and schemes. But outside the industry, he's not out there trying to sell you some bullshit course.
No. Yeah, that's a good point. Yes.
But he does put himself out there, and so I think. I agree with the guy because we've had the same rant a few times, but I think he's too much on it. Like, I think there's definitely a lot to be said for putting yourself out there, and if people buy your book, because I know people that have done like some really small books, like they've sold 10, 15,000 copies or whatever, just to people that they've tried to sell it to. Or they've given away copies at events they've spoken at, and just all kinds of stuff. But the people that have read their book become customers of their agency or refer their friends a lot more than people who've never read anything from you. So I think where it becomes like into the territory this guy's talking about is where they clearly only make money from their 10,000 course, and it's all just about selling this bullshit course. There's different, like if you're doing your content and you're selling your course because you'll make more money from doing actual work after people have become exposed to your book, that's different from if you, like, people read Expert Secrets, they sign up to ClickFunnels, and then ClickFunnels does $1,200 a month from them, or $1,200 a year or $5,000 a year, depending on which one they buy. So he might not even make any money on that stupid book. I'm sure he does because he upsells like a bandit. But even if he didn't make any money on that book, people who read the book and then they're like, oh, which software am I going to use to do all the strategies in this book? Am I going to use Infusionsoft or am I going to use ClickFunnels? They're going to choose ClickFunnels more often than not just because that's the person they've bought the information from. So I think you can sell someone information and use it to build trust, and there's no reason why you should give your book away for free or you should be like some super secretive hermit just because. So I don't completely agree with him. And like, what's he saying? Everyone knows you need to put those courses in the bank, man. Bank those courses.
I guess I'll just wrap up with saying, like, I don't mean to be like super selfish with what I know, and I don't think people that think the way I do intend to be super selfish. It's just like, I think it's a mentality of there are good people that offer stuff genuinely, and there's obviously shitheads. What I struggle with is I could offer a lot of secrets, and I know 99.9% of the people that listen to them aren't going to be actioning them at all. So I just made the stupid, stubborn decision to say, fuck it, I'm tired of talking to people and giving them advice, and I get called an idiot, or, oh, I tried it, didn't work, or I just didn't do it. So now Garrett's an idiot. It's like, I think a lot of people fall into that boat, and a lot of people other than me are thick-skinned and just, they're like, yeah, so someone didn't listen. I reached that one person that did listen. I have a hard time getting over that hurdle. Whereas that's why I'm in charge of our content strategy and building. Yeah. So like I shut down. That's a personal flaw of me. So like reflecting on it is something I should probably change, and that probably aligns well with this guy.
You're going to be annoyed with me now, but I literally I was looking for a Gary Vaynerchuk quote earlier for my guest post, and he actually said something that exactly what you just said. He said, "Do you know why I give away all this amazing information for free?" He goes, "Because these fucktards," pointing at the screen, "don't even listen. So I can give away everything for free."
Well, that's the whole
point.
I used to say that confidently, or not like confidently that no one's going to come over and do it. It's just like, now it's just like, yeah, do you know how many people I've talked to and I've told them, try this. It'll work for you. And I would have spent a week getting that ready for them, and it's just like,
well, remember that
thanks.
lady that I tried to help? Like, she's launching her, like, I won't say what she's doing, it's not fair, but
yeah,
a small local business, and like she'd hired some local person to do the website, and everything was broken, and the SEO was all wrong. She just didn't have a sensible site structure. Like, there weren't articles, there weren't individual articles for each of her services, so it looked like the site was aimed at kids, but it was actually adults could use some of the services too.
Right.
And I just wrote her a really nice message because, you know, I wanted her to succeed, and I got kind of a snarky, "Oh, I'm aware of some of this, thanks." And then, like, obviously she read it again a day later.
Yeah, so it's like,
and
well,
then suddenly she's grateful, and I get like, "So what do you think I should do about this?" And I'm like, well, I did reply because I do want her to succeed, you know, like she's wasted money of this incompetent person. And I hate seeing that in this industry. So I'll swallow my own frustration with being spoken to like I was being some kind of dick when I'm actually trying to help, when it saves someone from the incompetence in our industry, because it's a shame to have someone's dreams fail because some idiot who pretends to be a web designer can't even design a simple website. It's depressing.
Well, that's a good transition into this next piece is funny because one, she highlights people that don't know how to do outreach, and two, she thinks she's above the people that do outreach, but it's obvious that she has been manipulated by anyone that's actually good at doing outreach.
Oh yeah, this chick, she's like ranting about how she's so smart, and as SEO types can't trick her. She's got links to like every bullshit brand that's given an award, every bullshit brand that's mentioned us on her like social media shares page. It's like everyone who wants a link from this. I mean, probably she's going to wise up now that she's appeared on the show, because some of you guys are going to get a link from her.
Yeah,
just to be fair to you guys, though, and this is us being super nice, we are dropping this tip for the viewers of SEO UnMasked. We have not got a link for any of our clients on here. This is open house for you guys.
And she only charges $10.
Do an award. Mention her in a review of bloggers in the industry on your client's site, and you've got one free link. It'll cost you $12 for your writer. And hey, if you've read my crash course Builder Guide on Builder Society, look at all the awards she's linking to. What did I tell you should do in the guide?
Hey,
don't give awards. Don't do.
Trev says she has about 2,000 hits a month, but a year ago she was doing 7,500. So she's the SEO expert, isn't she? She took a penalty. She has 901 referring domains for a site that does 2,000 traffic. Lordy, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, so kind of funny, but
no, it's funny. She's a little too hyped up on what she thinks she knows, and
I think that's the thing, though. Like, there's tiers, and I actually had this conversation with someone today. They were like, "Do you think this outreach thing's going to die? It seems so hard. I'm trying to do it myself, and I'm just giving you guys this money, and you get more links than I can get, like, working full time on it." And the truth is, it's not that it's got harder, and you have to have leveled up. And someone like this can pick up on the bottom tier outreach, But look at all the people on her site. Look at all the people who've got a link from her, and ask yourself: is it dead, or do you just need to read my guide on Builder Society and actually think more deeply about?
It's not that it's gotten harder. It's just that the bottom of the floor has settled a little bit higher.
Mm.
And for the people that always had like a high standard, no big deal. But for the people that never gave a fuck or learning, I'm not trying to insult people that are learning. It's like, yeah, your barrier to entry is a little bit higher. So in that respect, it's harder. But if you take it seriously and really work towards it and do good at it and read books about psychology and manipulating people, that's secret to outreach. That's a don't tweet this. You really quickly you find yourself more up here when you put an effort into it versus dicking around down here. And it's not hard to get out of the shithole. It's just you got to apply yourself and do it.
I'm a little bit shocked on this site. Apparently, there's an International Kiss a Ginger Day.
Well, she would know.
Well, I guess so. The day has apparently been created to stop ginger people being bullied and abused by society, and to instead show some ginger. You can tell this was posted in 2016 because by 2018, in our current woke world, there would be like outrage from this post. Like sexual abuse for gingers. Check your privilege, you non-ginger person.
The whole post is just like, it's just like LOL to me. Like, you've lost all your traffic. You've lost everything. Why are you attacking people trying to do SEO? You obviously can't, and you can't even promote a brand. So it's like, you got penalized, woman. It's like, what do you want? Where is your right to say anything? You got penalized. It's obvious. You did something.
What I'm realizing reading this is everyone thinks they're a victim of something. It's like
we can't get started on that tonight.
Well, I'm just going to read this and then we can move on. It's one paragraph here. But International Kiss a Ginger Day doesn't make me feel proud, not in the slightest. It makes me feel sad that this is what society's become. Everything has to have a day, and someone somewhere thinks the years of abuse people like me suffered can all be fixed.
Just stop now. We're going to get way derailed.
But it's depressing.
Over at Search Engine Land, you must have found this article about large sites. It obviously takes a lot of time to write meta descriptions for every page.
Yeah, I think
our
this is
friend Paul is over there. Yeah.
One of the good guys in SEO, Paul Shapiro.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely check this out. He's super into finding. We all talk about automation, but Paul doesn't let the quality slip just because we're automating something. And obviously that takes a lot of work, but in the long run, worth it.
All the stuff he does gives me a headache, and I'm pretty good at coding and automation, but he just takes it a step further than I'm quite comfortable with. But then I'm not a technical SEO like he is. Like when I'm automating something, it's a sales process or...
this is something he could probably charge companies like $25,000 a month to go give his advice, and he's put out for free. Like, this is cool stuff that probably only applies to like 0.1% of SEOs, but this is actually like a straight up how to do it.
I can't remember if it was him I spoke to. It might have been... it's over a year ago now because it was before even the 24 hours of SEO. It might have been Paul. Apologies if it wasn't Paul, but someone was talking about, should we share stuff like this on Search Engine Land and things like that? And my argument was that, we work in an industry where 90% of the people and maybe 99 are incompetent. So, but they're not incompetent on purpose. They would love to get good results to their clients and actually do a good job. They just don't know. And there's so many bad articles on sites like this. Having someone like Paul share really valuable stuff and help the industry level up. It's and I used the poker players analogy. Like when you go to someone else's poker game, like you go to Parks in Philadelphia. If all the regulars are trying to make the locals have a good time because that's how they make their money. If you turn up as an outsider, like people do sometimes, with your cap on, shades on, headphones in, the other regulars love a word with you because it's optimal for you that day to be like that, because you'll concentrate, you won't talk to you won't talk to any of the fish, blah blah blah. But it's not good for the game. In the long run, that makes everyone have less of a good time. Some of the fish will be like, oh, that was kind of shit this week. I'm not going to go back for a couple of weeks when normally they go every Friday. It's just bad for the game. And so hiding your information, if you're someone as smart as Paul, is good for him in the short term. But in the long term, it's bad for the game. And doing things that's good for the game is good for all of us. In the long run, we'll all make more money if we level up, because there's unlimited money to make if we help all these business owners grow their businesses. If we help all these people make more money, there's more money for all of us in helping them do it. And the people who fuck up are the people who actually cost us all money, not giving away our secrets. So I think there's share more. If you can help like a struggling SEO, someone, they might not listen to you. If they don't listen to you, they're just another fraudster that's ripping people off. If they'll listen and they want to improve, being like Paul and being willing to share, being like Nick Eubanks, who I tweeted about that this week, in the middle of his mergers, was willing to, like, with all that stress going on, 2 agencies getting bought, turns up and puts a shoe on his head to raise money for St. Jude's Children's Cancer Hospital and the 24 Hours of SEO, and was one of the most highly rated presentations on the event. Him and Vin both were much loved. So we're going to try and get more content people on talking about the content side next year, because the content stuff really went over well. And Jared as well. All 3 of them content. 3 of the highest rated presentations were all content stuff. So we're going to try and really focus on content maybe on next year's 24 hours. But I think, like, it's leveling up the industry, and it's going to help business owners do better, and it's going to help people who want to not be in the 90% who are incompetent. I know that sounds harsh, but almost all people who work in, I'm a social media consultant, I'm an SEO.
People that are taking that offensive should take that as, okay, if I've just taken that to offense, I should really quickly reevaluate my actual skills and be honest with myself. If I have a remote feeling that I'm falling into that shitty category, what can I do to get better really quickly? And
yeah, like I wouldn't take a technical SEO gig.
Right.
It's not my area of expertise. You could do it. I couldn't. I mean, like, and just being honest with yourself about your skills. Like, I'm a psychology and pitching and sales guy. That's where most of my skills lie. That's why Garrett's working on the technical SEO on her own sites, and I'm not.
I'm not a technical SEO expert. I'm just happen to be the one out of us two.
I don't know. I would score you a solid 7.7 out of 10 now. You're constantly moving up the scale, man. Like, well, you'll read an article from someone like Paul or meet him at a conference to learn. Like, most of the guys are not even, and it is mostly guys. I think more, for the most part. I mean, not always, but for the most part, more women in our industry are self-aware and able to learn and focus on the right areas. There's a lot of men who've come into our industry because they did something else before, and it's just the next part of their game. Like, they used to be some kind of business coach before, and now they're an SEO, or they used to be a web designer and now they're an SEO. It's just a continuation of their game of, I wander around local businesses taking money off them for spurious value, which is, I don't know, I think that's just generally true, though. I think most of the time it's men who are shitty scammers more than women, which is disappointing.
That's something we better not go into.
Well, I know you have a couple of specific examples, but I think they're the exception that proves the rule and shouldn't be called out individually, Garrett.
Yeah. Anyways, so the main topic tonight, Steve and I, we do link building as a main source of our income. Wanted to talk about kind of a theoretical discussion on how is it human nature to use a link and an ode back to citing sources, like if you're writing a paper in school. And the other night I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep, and I ended up going to sleep on the couch and watching TV, and it just kind of, I was thinking, as you're a kid, you're coming up and you're in the 3rd grade. You start writing a paper, and you're reading books and you're like, oh yeah, I saw that and I saw this, and you end up writing this paper and you give it to your teacher, and she says, or he says, where did you learn this information? And as a kid, you're like, well, I don't really know what you mean. Well, yeah, someone took the time to categorize this information, and they're an authority because you read their book. How come you didn't say I read John Smith's book on page 56, and I found this sentence, and it was published in 1959 by Westinghouse, and this and that and that. And you say as a kid, well, fucking no, I just read it in a book, and that was that. And if you translate that into modern day websites, I was thinking, obviously anybody that has an idea about SEO, they know what a link is, whether you're absolute newbie or the best. Do you ever see a point where it's like people have super solid websites and it doesn't even cross their mind to use a link because they don't care? There's that human factor of, I don't care about citing my source. I don't care whether I'm linking on purpose or I'm not. I just don't give a fuck. And how that plays into linking in the internet and how that's changed so much between writing a paper or writing a book.
I mean, I think there's I'm glad you kind of talked about the kid thing, because when I saw this topic, it was one of the things I was going to say. Like, you're talking about human nature. I think it's more nurture over nature, because, like you just said, the kid's default instinct as a human. So the human nature is to just write the paper and not link to anything.
And now the human nature is to link.
The teacher teaches you to link, and I think once you understand why you're citing your sources and what plagiarism is, and how that benefits the person who had the original thought, I think most quality websites will continue to link to things that add value. I mean, cynical SEOs like us will link to authority sources because linking to authority sources is a ranking signal. Like, Google distrusts sites in the medical space, for example, that don't appear to ever link to any medical studies, because authority, and that's just something that's going to be a feature of machine learning too, as they turn the dial up on that, because more trusted medical sites are always going to be linking to more sources. Like, there's no scientist writes a paper where they don't cite the initial work that led them to try their study. So I think it's not human nature, but I think at the highest quality sites, the links are always going to be available if you're an original thought that led them to do something. How that filters down into the mid-tier sites is more interesting. But one thing I have noticed, and we noticed it from a campaign, and I'll just kind of obfuscate it a little bit. They're a homewares manufacturer. We did a guide to behavior using that particular thing. And that ranked by itself and just started picking up free links because people were citing it in their own discussions about whether they agreed with that particular aspect of etiquette or they didn't. And in typical lulls, though, despite picking up free links every single month, this particular client, we were never their SEO agency. We were brought on board to do some PR. But they replaced us with an SEO agency who took that link bait down, despite the fact it was picking up 7 free links a month. The stupidity of this industry sometimes knows no bounds. But so I think once something ranks, if it's an authority source, it just picks up those free links.
Do you need something?
Constantly. So I think people do link naturally.
We're in the middle of something. Yeah, I agree. It's
Have
you got a special guest speaker that wants to?
Yeah, maybe she should come on.
The human nature of link building.
For a couple hundred people. Yeah. Anyways, sorry.
Just waiting for your rebuttal now.
I got too distracted to come up with my rebuttal.
I think we kind of agree. Anyway, it's like it's not human nature, so but it is nurtured into us to cite our sources, and I think people kind of naturally do it now when they see something that they like, they mention it. So I mean, the European Union wants to ban citing sources, though. So
well, yeah, that's another thing.
That could be a problem.
Yeah. And I like in the back of my head, it's like human nature has kind of like relatively like flopped in the digital age of going back to the kid example. It's like you didn't intend to plagiarize, you didn't intend to rob someone of their credit, but now it's like you make a blog post and it's like every single little thing is like cited to the word, even though that's not exactly true either, but it's like overlinking, oversighting, like stuff that's common knowledge is getting links to it, and the whole point of citing stuff was an authoritative source.
It's actually a challenge, just you mentioning that. Like, so for the guest post I'm writing at the minute, I've had to leave an example out because it's from a conference, and I literally can't remember who it was that I got the information from, and I can't give that as my story or my example if I can't remember who to cite for it. And I just literally can't remember. I've been to so many conferences now and watched so many like replays and video. It's like, so I'm actually leaving it out because I can't cite my source because it's not my original thought. But sometimes, like that Mad Men episode where Don has that really bad, like the cure for the common cereal or whatever, like that kid had mentioned to him at interview. Like they packed it really close together, but that could have been 2 years apart, 5 years apart, 10 years apart.
Right.
The way the human brain works, you throw all this stuff into the pile. At what point do you need to cite someone? At what point is it original thought? It's really difficult to know because there'll be information that I would just take as given knowledge in SEO and I would just say it as if it was fact. But someone somewhere at some point I probably read or heard talking about it that led me to start thinking down those lines that it deserves. If I was a scientist, I would have to try and credit them or cite their original research or something.
My ultimate reason for bringing this up is, from a linking standpoint, I'm starting to believe that linking to huge, I don't want to use the word authoritative because sometimes huge brands are not authoritative, just huge entities is being disvalued because of what you just said. It's at what point do we say this is common knowledge? Just like writing a paper. At what point do we say this doesn't need to be cited because NBC or CNBC has put this out there? What's even the point of linking to them anymore? When
that's an interesting point because like we had the question this week. Why does Neil Patel get so many links to his really crappy generic articles? And it's just because he's famous. And I think Google needs to.
And like when we talk about,
like if a small site does a really good piece of content, they might get 50 links for it. If Neil Patel does a mediocre piece of content, he might automatically get 300. And I'm not picking on Neil Patel. CNBC is just as good an example. They might publish a news story that gets 300 links that's mediocre, and a smaller news outlet, I don't know, like the Tennessee Daily News or something might break it, and they might get cited like 12 times before it breaks into the nationals. I think Google, they may already do this. To me, it would be logical to weight links more strongly if a small site that generally doesn't get many links per piece has a breakout piece, then that piece is clearly higher quality than a big site that always, everything they publish, like no matter how bad it is, gets links, I would consider the breakout piece to be more higher quality and more interesting in my algorithm. I'd love to, if I get to one of the conferences John Mueller's at this next year, I'll ask him that actually just to see what their take is. I mean, he won't know the answer for definite because no one ever gives you a definite answer in the algorithm, but it would just be interesting to hear his view conceptually on whether he agrees. You do miss Matt Cutts just because of his technical knowledge when you have questions like that.
Well,
he was so technically into it, whereas John Mueller's on a different part of the business and is bravely taking on the helping out webmasters front, which is fair enough. I mean, Matt Cutts wasn't going to stay in the job forever. It's a thankless task having all these SEO tosspots insulting you like constantly.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. And how many educated SEOs does a guy like Matt Cutts or Mueller or the other guy that's talking now, like, they have a lot more patience. I like to think I have a lot of patience to be one of those guys and have to answer those questions where it's like, if you had any clue when you're asking John Mueller a question, it's like, someone's already asked this, it's already been recorded, or at least a variation of it. It's like, but you have to answer the same questions day after day, night after night. John's
got a lot of patience. He really does. He's got a bit of a sense of humor though as well.
Right. It makes it much more.
Which makes me chuckle. Yeah. I do like some of his tweets. He's got a little sense of humor about him, which I imagine that makes life a lot easier for him because he can kind of enjoy it a little bit as well. But I think I really respect him for taking up the challenge of that, because Matt was big boots to fill. One of the originals at Google. Was he like employee number 17 or something insane like that?
Yeah.
He was big boots to fill, and he'd been doing it for so long. He's kind of taken it a different direction because he's got different knowledge and different skills. But we'll always miss Matt, and that's no offense to John. I respect the way John's doing the job as well, and I think there's one good thing that Google's done is they've made sure they've kept some continuity with the webmaster support forums and someone who's making video and helping webmasters out, because there needs to be someone who's like can just say this is bullshit. Right. So you don't have to argue with these idiots in the SEO industry who are trying to sell this snake oil and stuff. Like, if you've got John Mueller or Matt Cutts or someone saying this is just bullshit, it kind of just draws a line under it, and you don't have to worry about arguing with your client, or you can just be like, well, just watch John 4 minutes 37 seconds in.
Right.
It just makes life easier for agencies because there's so much misinformation out there. It's insane. So props to John. Hopefully I will catch him at a conference. I missed the Brighton SEO one because I had a meeting that involved as it turned out, a 40-minute walk across Brighton to get to, and I didn't get back on time afterwards.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get an Uber. We just had to run back across, and we missed him. But hopefully, I'll make one of John's Webmaster Live Q&As, because that would be kind of cool. Is he at PubCon? Or is it Gary doing that one? Gary. A lot of the big ones as well.
He remoted in for MN Search Summit. That I'll be talking about shortly. I didn't go, but speakers. God, PubCon needs to do something with their website. It looks like they haven't updated it in a decade.
Yeah, it still looks like it's held above a pub in England.
Yeah. Adam Prale, I don't know. Adam Reaver, I don't know. Olivia or something. I don't see anyone from Google on this at all.
Bit disappointing.
I don't see anyone here that I know or have even heard of, but that sounds like... Oh, actually, okay, so now if I look at the companies, things are making more sense. Shithole,
look who's sponsoring a text broker, Fat Joe. If you see the guys from
something
Internet
that I'm
Marketing,
sad to see when you have a few speakers that work for PubCon. And this list is pretty big, obviously. PubCon's a big event.
Who's doing the keynotes?
I don't have a clue.
How do we tell? Because I was only going to buy a keynote. Oh, here we go. Here's our past keynote speakers. This is the past one. It's not the current.
You know, it's like, I don't mean to be an asshole and say just because I haven't heard of you doesn't mean you do a good job. It's more when there has to be about 100 speakers on this list or so, and if I
they've got Anne Smarty from My Blog Guest.
That died a few years ago.
That would be interesting to hear what she's up to. Barry Adams is fairly well known.
Yeah, but there's a vast majority of people that it's like, oh, we need to pay someone to be here and charge ticket sales. It's
I wish they had like more information about them on this speaker page, like, because I think some of them they've got SEM Rush is represented.
Oh, there's a guy from IBM talking about security in SEO. I'd be interested.
That would be a good one.
That actually, yeah, that's a good one.
Dave Davies from Beanstalk, they're pretty well known.
The buyer group, Griffin Media. These, I guess it is PubCon. I should say this isn't exactly.
Dwayne Forrester works at Yext. I thought he was Bing originally, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Am I getting confused? It's the right guy. He was
if I remember correctly, yeah.
I don't like Yext, but I won't say anything else.
People from Microsoft. So I guess it's a mix. I don't know a lot of people out of the SEO world.
I think if you pick your stream.
Yeah.
Stone Temple Consulting.
Yeah,
Mark
yeah.
He'll be really good.
So there's some decent people here.
There's some really, really good ones in here.
But mixed in is a lot of bullshit.
You've got to pick your streams really carefully, I think, at a conference this big.
Not that I'm actually going to show up to any of these, but
well, I'm only gonna get a keynote ticket because I just want to go to the networking, and
right.
I'll probably
go to one. I thought we already bought passes, or not? Or is that Dublin? No, we didn't.
We haven't bought these yet.
Oh.
No, because these don't go up. These don't go up in price till like the week before or something. So
I mean, what is BuyerLegends.com? What is this?
We haven't bought PubCon, have we? I
don't know.
No, we need to put Dave in charge of this, just like.
Well, it's nice having an executive assistant. According to this, Matt cuts. Oh, pass. Fucking assholes! They need to get rid of all this. Half these images don't even fucking work on their past. Okay, like, all right. Anyways, moving on to the review. Last week, Vin and I were at Minnesota Search Summit. I'd never been before, even though this was their 5th year, I believe. I was generally surprised at the quality overall. Saying this, I'm not a member of the Minnesota Search group or whatever it is. I probably will join now, but
everyone was from out of town, though. There was a lot of big names.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's people from in the state. I actually met a couple of people that were working. The people I met were in-house for a company here, but it was very well put on. I mean, it was a one-day event. It had, I guess, what you would call like the big-name speakers that are actually talking about cool stuff for the most part. Of course, there's always a couple of bullshit people, but from the events I've been to in the last few years, this is probably, for speakers, really good. The event was really well managed, other than the exact feedback I provided to them the other day. There needs to be a bar open all day, because there are actually a bunch of people, even in a small event to like 350, 400 people. There's people that don't go to the speakers, and we're just there to talk to people. And having a bar open all day is very beneficial. There are people like us that would probably sponsor it if it makes sense. There's people that will sponsor it regardless.
Well, and Deep Crawl, I mean, they at all the UK events, they sponsor a bar like every time. And like Garrett said, like you want to be able to just sit down and network, have a bit of food, have a drink.
When I say I don't go to speakers, I went to the Q&A panel with Paul because it was really cool to hear people ask him questions, and I know him, man. I know he's going to give good answers, and it's interesting to hear from, but for most parts, I know that at most events, people are generally speaking, this is general, talking about basic stuff that doesn't apply to me. It doesn't apply to a lot of people, actually, that buy your tickets. And there are people that just sit through them because...
I will say that, actually, I agree 100% of that. Like, the most value quite often is in the panels. I would like more panels at events that I go to. I would definitely go to, if you've got like, even if you've got a panel of 5 and there's 2 people on there I'm interested in hearing their answers to stuff on, I'm going to go to the panel. Yeah, I'm going to sit there and listen to the whole panel. Whereas if someone's speaking about link building or something, there's no point in me going to that because they're going to share nothing.
And the thing is I talked to people there that I asked them what they sat there and like, well, yeah, I went to listen to this, but because I'm here and I have to be here for work, even though none of this stuff appealed to me, I had to go listen through it, or I already knew it. And it's like if you just had a bar open for people that are buying your conference ticket for $500 or whatever, serving us would be have a bar open, even if it was a half-sponsored bar where I had to pay like $2 for a bottle of Bud Light or something. That network.
Well, even if it's a full price bar that they actually make profit from, they get a profit share on. That's fine.
Right. Something where it's valuable to us, and I think a lot of conferences miss out on that. And actually, people won't show up until the actual networking thing, like the 1 hour cocktail dinner or the after party. No one shows up until then, which for the Minnesota Search Summit was actually kind of weird that of 400 people, maybe 100 people showed up for the 3 hour after party, and we ended up sitting there. And the organizer said, we have a lot of money to spend still because we had a minimum on drinks. We've ordered every drink on the menu, so let's all enjoy it. And that was really awesome to be part of. But that should have been more enjoyed by the entire people there.
Yeah.
And overall it was a really good conference. It's definitely, I don't want to say tight-knit in the sense that you can't go and talk to people. It's just like, it's really open arms, but let's have a good discussion if we're going to talk. Otherwise, I don't need to talk to you. It was cool. I definitely go back next year. Speaker, I said the speaker lineup was good. Being over in St. Paul is different than being in Minneapolis, obviously. A lot of people spent most of their time in Minneapolis from what I could tell, but it's only a 15-minute Uber ride over, so that's not a big deal.
Well, yeah, I mean, I stayed in St. Paul when I came over to Minneapolis last time. It was...
Yeah. Come here. You getting ready for bed, buddy?
He just woke up.
Just woke up. It's 8:13. Hi.
How did you get on, buddy, at Search Minneapolis?
Oh, yeah, he came downtown with us. So did the girls. And they hung out. You look tired, huh? Where are you?
Don't worry, SEO will be dead by the time you grow up.
Yeah, you're never.
I know everyone. I know everyone. I know the Brighton SEO T-shirt says SEO will never die. It'll be dead by the time you grow up. Don't worry.
Yeah, it better be dead in 10 years.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of the same at Search Leeds.
Yeah, so how was Leeds?
Yeah, it was kind of the same. It was they had a good. For such a small conference, they had a really good lineup of speakers. A lot of international speakers, people you'd see at the bigger conferences. Similar kind of size, one-day event. Being a British conference, obviously the bar was open all day, but everyone was kind of hung out at the bar just outside the arena because it was beautiful sunshine. So yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good networking. There was a lot of international people over.
Now a puppy wants attention.
I think actually, if you were in the UK and you only do like you only do one conference. Like Brighton SEO is so big, everyone's just wandering around Brighton a lot of it.
Yeah.
And the networking event, like it's really hard to. Like we only caught up with the people we were trying to catch up with when Garrett had already been awake for 42 hours. Like it was getting on towards the end of networking when we found them, so we didn't get a proper time to talk. But like if he'd come over to search leads, like they were at the bar sat outside on like one of the 5 tables, so you can see them immediately go over and join the table. So networking with people you already knew and then getting in to talk to their friends and having a proper conversation was much easier at search leads. I definitely go back. I think it's I would bet that over the next 3 years we get more out of search leads than we do out of Brighton SEO. I mean, I think I'll always have more fun at Brighton SEO, especially when the weather's nice and we're drinking on the beach bars. But I think in terms of I mean, they're both so cheap. Like conferences.
Well, yeah. After looking at this one, so we're going to Learn Inbound in Dublin.
150 euros a ticket. Oh, we need to book our tickets today.
Yeah.
Straight after this phone call, we need to get our fucking tickets booked. Actually, we can do it first thing tomorrow morning. We can do it first thing tomorrow. Actually, yeah. We need to get it in before they screw us for an extra $50.
Well, $50 at this point, a $200 ticket to me is like most conferences over here are well over $700.
Yeah. You don't want to throw away $100 for the sake of a day for the sake of it.
Well,
so we'll get it.
Yeah, $50. That's like a nice bottle of High West Rye.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and $100 is we can take a couple of clients out for dinner in Dublin. You know what I mean? And so you don't want to throw it away for the sake of it. But yeah, I mean, they're a lot cheaper over here. That's the thing. So you can basically go to everything. It's easier.
It's like American conferences. They just seem to get. I know the European conferences make money, the organizers, but it's like, why not have a company sponsor it properly and offer it to the people that, like people buying the tickets should not have to pay much. To me, it should just be how it is.
The American conferences, if you want to get a booth, it's much cheaper. Over here, like the companies that sponsor it have the booths, they spend a lot more money and they have to do a lot more to get attention.
I've noticed when I was in Brighton, the people that do run the booths at Brighton much more engaged with people walking by. They do a much better job being friendly and trying to pull down business versus at American conferences. It's just like, oh, I pissed off the boss. I'm sitting in the booth this weekend and I have to be here. Do you want to talk about search analytics? And it's like, no, I don't.
I mean, we're gonna start getting some booths next year because we've been. It's really interesting. I mean, because we're not going to sit on the booth. Me and Gavin, obviously.
I don't even know if it's worth. I don't know. Maybe.
I think we'd make a lot of money on the booths, especially at Brighton, especially at things like Ungagged. Like people like Fat Joe have a booth every time. They had a queue like round the fucking block at Brighton. It's like
until I asked them a question.
Well, yeah, until you went over there for a chat, but Authority Hacker review. But I love Authority Hacker. Those guys are amazing. They review our competitors, so we don't have to. But yeah, I mean, I think we've started taking our team along to events so that they can get used to interacting with the people. And they're doing it on a lot more of an intense basis. So they're having dinner with really important people that we really have to be good with. So they're doing it under higher pressure, but with us there, so that when it comes to the booth, it's like going to be easy compared with what they've already done. So I think next year we'll start getting. We're not going to overdo it. We'll probably do 2 next year. The year after, we might do 10. It's all just a gradual kind of adding that to our marketing mix. But I think at a couple of key conferences next year, we should have a booth and the staff will be ready for it by then. So Probably do. I think we'll probably Brighton SEO next April. Garrett's definitely coming back over. He's got to give it a proper go. See Brighton in the good weather.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence about going to Thailand for that thing, but it depends on some personal stuff, so we'll see. But
yeah, I think that'll be a waste of time. That's a holiday. Like, if you want to go on holiday, go to that conference. But
well, stop saying that, because the second I go, I'll get audited, and then, well, we have proof that this guy is saying he went on holiday. This wasn't business. Like, no, I went to a fucking conference.
Yeah. No, I think you can meet those people better within the US.
Honestly, I already know who I want to talk to. You know the reason I'm going, so it's like whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I mean, you can meet him somewhere in the US.
I have no reason to meet him. I have a reason to deplore him. And so, yeah, I'm not going to get it. Anyways, Vin claims he'll be back next week. I'll be the bookie. I'll give you.
It depends on the train. I mean, if he's cleaning the toilets in the train again.
If you saw his hats, he bought a very nice hat. He took the whole car to himself, so he didn't have to talk to anybody. He's watching the beautiful Pennsylvania countryside whiz past him. He might just live on a train for the rest of his life. I don't know. It's Vin Diletto, everybody.
He loves the train.
Yeah. Choo choo, motherfucker. Choo choo.
He's like our 1 and 2 year olds. He loves the train.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be back next week. Oh, if you have questions, send them in. We're happy to talk about stuff. Questions, you want to come on the show, we actually need to start getting more guests on.
I actually have one question for Garrett before we finish up.
A question for me, that can't be good.
Yeah, here we go. Sometimes e-commerce store owners outsource their SEO work to freelancers without knowing how to judge the quality of the work they're getting for their money. What are the essential things they should look for to avoid getting ripped off?
Do they understand canonical?
Okay, there we go. That's Garrett's tip. Ask your freelancers, how do I set up my rel equals canonical correctly on my e-commerce?
I mean, seriously, e-commerce, we're talking thousands of pages that probably belong to the same category, which we've talked about before. Does a freelancer understand canonical? If not, they should be burned at the stake. If so, that's the next step for you. I don't know. But
I mean, really, my recommendation is: can you afford Paul Shapiro? If yes, hire.
Well,
if no,
it's kind of like the question. You say e-commerce. We have a candle site that's e-commerce that has like 25 pages. Oh, big deal. It's
I mean, on the link building side on e-commerce, we've worked in some of the toughest spaces. Like we worked with.
Well, right. Neither of us want to touch that because there's like 15,000 fucking pages for light bulbs.
We didn't do the technical on page. We did the promotion link building. I mean, like I wouldn't have got involved with fucking the on page at a fucking Viagra site or something. You know, but we did the link building for it, and we were hugely successful. But you have to hire freelancers for the right thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If I was going to hire someone to do big scale or any scale e-commerce, I would just ask them, tell me what canonical means in your own words and see what they said. Because I do understand it. Do I want to go and apply it to a huge e-commerce site? No. But I could at least look at it and get a gist of, do you know what you're doing? But
cool. There we go. So that's an answer to one of the questions we'll be answering in more detail in my blog post coming up.
All right. Yeah, we'll see you next Thursday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight in the UK, England time. Yeah, send in some questions. Send in if you want to come on.
Yeah, we need some questions. We used to get loads. We need some questions. We need some
words of the day. All that kind of stuff.
Words of the day, all that kind of cool stuff. Just send them in at SD Brownlee. That's brown, like the color, LIE, like lie down. Just hit me up on Twitter. Follow me. If you're in the industry, I'll also follow you back. Send me a tweet. Let me know what your questions are. Let me know what your word of the day is. Let's try and get some of the features back up so we're not just doing the news, because we don't want to be a news roundup show. We want to do your questions. We want to help you with your sites. If you want to come on for a case study, we've done a case study for a taxi firm. If you want to come on and be our case study, we'll get a guest on it. If we have a case study, we'll have a guest on. We'll have Jared. We'll have someone on, and we'll actually like do a really deep review because he'll do the technical SEO. Vin will do content. We'll go like super deep. So if you want to be on for a case study, hit me with a tweet. We want to really level up the. This year's our warm up year. We're halfway through. We want to. Going into 2019, we want to level up the show and really give you guys the maximum value. So if you want a free $50,000 SEO consultation from four experts in completely different areas in SEO, it's completely free. All you got to do is send me a fucking tweet. So send me a fucking tweet, get your site on, and we'll take you to the next level.
Yeah. So don't forget to smash that like button. Email Sassy Steve your questions, and it's been a couple weeks. I can't remember what it is.
Don't email me. I will delete your emails if you email me. Twitter only for show-related stuff.
Yeah, share the show. Whatever the fuck happens on YouTube, I don't know anymore. But
I think you have to hit the bell, and then you have to manually add it, and then YouTube will still hide it.
No,
that's how it works.
Sounds about right. All right, see you guys next week. Adios.